love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up, it's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just look me up. And if you get in my way, you gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math. When I hate, I attack. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. 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 Don't be scared. Just look me up. Don't be scared.
Hello everybody. Okay, so let's get the show on the road. Feels like a really long break. As I promised, this week we're going to be going fully to normal, or as normal as we can call it, since now we're changing the schedule a little bit and we're doing these instead of in the evening, we're doing these in the morning, so you guys can kind of look a little bit ahead. Hello everybody. And have a little bit of a projection of what we're expecting throughout the day, and of course the following session, if possible, we're going to talk about, so that we're going to see what it is the market has in store for us for the following day. But we will go over what the market has for us for the current session. 1 minute, it's not too exciting, it's pretty simple. In fact, maybe it is interesting in this instance, since we do have something to look at. It appears to be that we're smacking here the median, and we've just retested. Some would argue that it's not a real retest of 5,555.55. I would say that is close and legit enough. We'll see in a minute whether this truly is going to be retested. I would argue whether it was right on the dot. Normally we do care about precision. Those who understand technical analysis properly understand how precision is important. But in all reality, if we're going to really ask ourselves, is this close enough to consider that the market is starting a retest of that vicinity, of that level? I would argue that yes, that is definitely, in my mind, close enough to be considered as a retest. Now let's go over to the larger one. One sec. And now what we are having here. Now that's actually very interesting. This is, I wouldn't say bullish, but it's definitely not bearish full-on, sort of full-on force. We're seeing the price action curving right above the 20. That is usually indicative of the price action, rather the momentum flipping around to the upside towards around the 50, potentially giving way to a little bit more bullish momentum. That kind of confirms that very process of a retest, which I just said earlier in the community. We're just kind of hanging out for a little bit. And I said in my mind it's not going to be all that surprising if we will end up retesting 5,500, sorry, and 55.55 multiple times. We'll test it properly. Going above it, in fact, could be, right? There are multiple factors that go into, we're going to see that in half a second. One of the things that bother me the most right now is this gap. In particular, we have that gap all the way from 5,553 all the way to 5,669.43, kind of. That's close enough. If we're going to look at the 1 minute, that's going to be close enough, I would argue. So basically what we need to make to close this is 5,669, which I gotta say I don't really see how the market has any momentum for that when already struggling to cross over that 5,500 as is. In fact, it was very questionable whether we'll make it to it at all. But as you can see, we are currently retesting it. On the other hand, on the 30 minutes, we're already starting to see the failure of the trend, although again, this is not necessarily indicative if we're going to see something adverse on the larger time frame. This may be just in a sort of convergence divergence process before continuing to the upside. But the way to determine that is to look at the bigger, sort of larger picture, whether the larger picture says that we're moving one direction or another, and this sort of falls into the framework of that. 45 minutes. 45 minutes is actually interesting. It's bullish within the context of where we are. I mean, it's really struggling with that bearish transition, so that's quite interesting, although very normal still given the current location and the market behavior. I'm not going to be surprised if this sort of confirms, pardon me, if this confirms a retest of that 55. Again, basically the entire conversation right now revolves around 5,500, 55.55. You can see that level. You can see the accuracy. Again, those just kind of joined a second ago, how very neatly and accurately the market ends up testing these levels, or at least hopefully I'll show you. That's this example, kind of how close this is. Too close for comfort and to be a coincidence. Of course, if we'll go into the past, we'll find that this level was highly respected, retested many times, in fact, and every time we are around that level, below and behold, surprise, check this out. We see the price action being respected and sort of intertwined within the framework of that level. It is definitely there. The market acknowledges it every time we cross over. It is somewhat magnetic, not too much, but what we still have is the gap right now, which is a lot more of a real problem that we have at hand, rather than the actual level within itself. Some would understand this level is tremendously powerful since it reappeared and appeared again and again and again, and just I would consider it to be a strong level regardless. But the gap is part of something that is currently almost a current chore, and so I would argue that it needs to be closed. Otherwise, the market will struggle to continue downwards, right, without closing the whole thing. I'm kind of exaggerating. You really know what I should be doing is this, because that's what we really need to close. That is left off that thing, but you get the idea. Now, let's look at the current price action as we're doing. Let me just get back there. Give me a sec. Okay. Where are we? We are further. Here we are. All right. Perfect. Let's go to the, what were we, 45 minutes, I think we were already looking at. We're looking at 45 minutes. 45 minutes is saying that we're more bullish than bearish at the moment, although we are in bearish territory, but not that much to say, well, you know, we cannot move all the way to that 55, which arguably, looking at the smaller time frames, is the direction. So I would say, yeah, that definitely is a good confirmation, right? This current behavior on the 45 minutes, given how short range this is relative to where we're at. I would say that, yeah, it's very likely for these levels to be retested. Of course, you'll see what it is that really is going on here. For example, you can see that we are sort of starting to hug, we've been hugging or moving alongside this channel for some time now. It's been confirmed multiple times. We know that's already the case. But now the reality is that now we're out of bounds. But I would say don't get too excited. The same way we are out of bounds on the bottom end, we can be out of bounds on the upper end. Now, another thing that's very interesting, a lot of people don't pay attention to that, but the more that divergence is spilling over and tugging towards the downside, it's far more indicative that the actual momentum of the overall trend is more bearish than bullish. It's almost like, yes, it can fly over the ceiling, but only by that much. On the other hand, dropping below the floor, it can do by a lot more, right? Kind of that is indicative within itself. And in fact, I would argue that this first test of these levels were just that, the first test, and we will end up retesting these levels and in fact further deeper, closer to 48.20 here, that level 48.18.62 to be super precise about it, unless I have it off, but I think I have it right. If I'm not mistaken, I have it right. Now, I'll be glad of the price action. So now that the trading view is misbehaving, I can say that it's truly trading view and not just my computer. So my computer should be just fine, at least for the moment. And so what we're seeing again is pretty evidently a sort of a beginning of this curving behavior, right, towards these levels. As we said, it might, of course, cross over. We do have this very weird wedge being created, very sort of negative, very weird, not standard wedge that we will penetrate and we'll retest, but actually you'd be surprised how more standard that is than sort of, again, people who are familiar with technicals understand that this is very normal and everyday behavior. All in all, this is pretty standard. Once complete with this sort of process, again, I'm just throwing it out there, just kind of roughly how it can behave. Of course, we'll continue a descent, retesting the very same levels, potentially sliding through some of them because we already closed a lot of them. On the other hand, the real question is whether we will close the gap. The real question is right now is that very simple one that we have at hand, whether we actually going to go to 5,650 to close the gap. Currently, we are seeing enough momentum, I would argue, to get to that 5,500 again and maybe cross it over. But I am really struggling to see if you're starting to pick up what I'm saying. We're here at the 1 hour and we're already starting to see convergence, divergence of the forces. Yes, we may have a little bit of a retest still, but overall, this is dying out. This is coming to an end. And in fact, those who are more objective understand that there is some level of deterioration here of the momentum, right? And more so that momentum now that is actually we are below the 80, this is signaling that we're far more likely to break into the body of the stochastic RSI, indicating that we're actually going to be a lot more bearish or rather flat than anything else, giving us exactly what we said. Again, flat is, don't imagine the price action simply going actually flat, which can actually happen, but I doubt it. I mean, flat is moving within the framework of a very narrow sort of channel, if you will, just to end up retesting the very same levels again and again and again, just to spill over afterwards, which is not going to be all that surprising. As we said, it's part of the behavior within that framework that we have right here, that wedge, right? Alrighty. Now, what is going on with the chat? What did I miss? Long market open streams. That's good, Danny. I hope you guys like that. Just remember to smash even if it's earlier than the usual smashing time. Oh man, Johnny, you kill me every time with that joke. Love you so much. Maru the Fool, Ven Maru the Fool. I remember seeing you here before, and I really got upset that you calling yourself a fool, but I get it's like a jester kind of joke. So essentially, two roller coasters slowing, and we're heading into another dip. Yes, Ven Maru, very correct, very correct. It seems that we're about to, again, one way or another. Look, there is an argument that, again, so this is scenario A, okay? Scenario B, by the way, partially goes into that framework, closes the gap, does the wedge, and continues down. That's B, okay? That's scenario B. Scenario C, some form of continuation and sort of, again, well, maybe too early, but just straight up this sort of retest. Absolutely, all scenarios are valid. In reality, if you ask my personal opinion, based upon how the hourly is starting to curve back inwards, right, to be more specific here, you see what the issue here is what we're starting to see on the 1 hour and the 4 hourly. things are starting to curve inwards again. And you know how the market behaves when we do dip downwards, right? This is arguably part of a longer process where we've just been sort of arguing with the members, about sort of the back and forth. But objectively, if we're looking right now at the 4 hours as its current behavior, right, as the current structure stands, given how we are outside of the bounds of the current channel, let me try and bring in the larger one. And what you realize that all along we're basically battling it out to move downwards into the actual body of the newer channel, sort of retesting the edge of it, because part of it is still within the framework of that previous channel. Now, the real question here becomes, well, how do we know we're not going all the way up? We're not going back into the previous channel, just continuing upwards. First of all, it's not really an upwards channel. It's more of a flat with a bit of an upside sort of direction, right? But overall, it is more generally downwards than anything else, if you really want to be objective about this. But the real reality is about the daily. You see the daily starting to curve, right? We're starting to see convergence, divergence, which is shortly going to lead to the breakdown of the price action, which is within itself already is in the framework of a downwards trend, as we know, and we've been in on for some time now, right? And we're, come on, bringing the, thank you. And you can see all that noise is actually happening below the upwards oriented channel, which we actually said the market originally, if you watch the last week's videos, we actually spoke about that very sort of potential behavior. And originally, that's actually hilarious. People are like, oh, Greg, you must be feeling bad. Guys, I predicted this. I literally, when we were here, I was saying that this is so very excessive and we can easily still see this. And in a very, very sort of, ecstatic circumstance in the market, may even see some form of a retest of the overall channel, and I gave it technically even higher above the current gap, 5,700. As I said, it still may end up retesting these things on the way down. Very unlikely, very, very unlikely again, but could have been within the framework of what we're seeing right now. Again, it becomes even less likely. And with the way we are currently losing that momentum, I doubt that we can go further on. Again, even if just a tiny little bit, just for a little bit, but not for long enough. That was not the plan. The plan was to remove all of that, barring that. And, well, why did it remove that then? Okay, that was weird. Anywho, so we are still moving within the framework of what we were planning to do. It's just that now we're being stopped and retested by certain levels that we've mentioned. And in fact, if you go to last week, I literally mentioned that we could end up retesting 5,555 mockingly. I'll admit, mockingly. I myself did not predict us actually retesting that 55, 55, 55, simply because the momentum at that point was so negative that I struggled to see how picking it up. And again, that gap partially played a generous role within the, sort of behavior of why we were able to push even that high. But we are about to correct and about to break up. I don't think this is going to last much longer. In fact, my argument was that we're going to start last week. Towards the end of the week, we did not do that. And so basically we slipped over into this week as we're heading closer and closer and closer to the end of the month, which will end up happening basically within today's session and 2 more sessions. That's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday. And right after that, that's it. The month is closed. I'm not going to be surprised if, ironically, which I actually just spoke to my members multiple times and mentioned again and again how the market is normally not timed also nicely with the market and does not try to put itself within the framework of that our such human perception of chronology, right? But this time around, it seems that we're far more likely to play it according to that monthly or that framework of time that we like to apply to the market. In other words, closer to the end of the month, we're going to see that transition of behavior, which obviously does play a huge role when it comes to options, but more so through sentiment and not actual directional effect. Now, if we're transitioning to the weekly, on the other hand, our weekly is, curving inwards. We've been warning and saying that this is going to stay within the framework of the bearish behavior all along. We will not be able to break up with it over to the larger channel on the weekly, the smaller channel that is right above us. We will stay within the framework of the larger channel moving downwards. In fact, retaining these levels, the 48.25, and arguably I would say soon retesting that SMA, simple moving average, on the weekly. And we will be also doing that 4,760 range, and potentially will even end up retesting that little wedge, getting stuck within the framework of that, and although not noticeable, but will play into the framework of a retest a little bit very neatly into the sort of normal behavior of the market. No one says it's going to stay perfectly below the 48.18. In fact, it's not going to be all that surprising given sort of the room for it to know if it's going to retest higher multiple times before deciding how to go about it afterwards. But yeah, I can't tell you exactly how that's going to behave once done. That's a little bit too far, too around the corner. Now, if you were wondering, guess what? Big surprise, our monthly still looks as horrible as it looked, just several days ago, last week, and it still is pointing to the downside, and we still are, hurtling and tumbling to the downside further and further and further. And the more we're going to do that, the worse it's going to get. So get ready. It's going to be very unpleasant. It may take, as we said, just a day or so to continue with the directional movement we're seeing on a monthly, but overall it is exactly as expected. Darnita, oh my god, that's so nice to see you. I haven't seen you in forever. I missed you a lot. Thank you, dear little human on Earth. Yes, you know that. You know me quite well. I mean, it's like you know. I mean, I don't have to tell you. Jin here is a close friend of mine. Dare I say so? Dare I call him so? And he knows me quite well, and yeah, like he knows I'm gonna, like, if a question is presented, even though it's like a joke, I'm first gonna treat it absolutely seriously, and then make fun of it, unless it's like beyond obvious. So yeah. For the no, but well, yeah, but that one I can accept because that's like I guess the terminology fool, it also probably plays along with the, like we do, like, it's a terminology that is being thrown around within the so not community but industry, I would argue, right? It's like the greater fool theory in a way, and also of course can be referred to the courtyard jester. We saw the extraordinary ability of Trump and co to move the market against technical expectations. Still, bad words. We know yes, they can, but these are temporary. When looked upon and examined sort of in retrospect, it's always temporary stuff, and it normally serves a purpose to not derail but slow down the current processes. Never that I mean, yes, I have, but more rarely than not that I've seen actual sort of political driven news actually derail or redirect the market. It is borderline impossible. These cycles are so major that to redirect them, again, the market can temporarily, just very, very temporarily, just like in this example, for example, allowing us to close the gap above us, but no more than that. I truly can see that. And by the way, you'd be surprised how it benefits these sort of people. Again, we already know that Nancy Pelosi is basically killing it in the market, and obviously is insider trading and whatnot. Call it whatever, but it's even to Sea Cucumber can see that at this stage. So yeah, able to do it again and again and again. No, they cannot nullify the market dive. No. They can only derail it temporarily, or in fact direct it in such a way that it benefits them, that you are not able to perceive simply that it does benefit them. So Tiny Buggy, yeah, thank you very much. Really missed you. Yeah, you haven't been around the community. I mean, I know my community went all private and stuff. I get it. It's a little bit problematic, but still, you're always more than invited to join us on the lives, of course. Talk to me on in Tom's community. I'm still there and still manage it in a lot of ways. So yeah, you can more than talk to me. Now, So basically, the narrative is all the same. Nothing has changed. We just got a good opportunity to buy some S triple Qs on the cheap. That's kind of the only thing that really happened. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to perceive that we will drop so low. Of course, in my mind, if I would have known that we're gonna drop and correct so low, I would have myself said how I am executing on that. You'll be able maybe to take your own cues. Of course, that's why I don't expect you guys to follow me blindly or just do what I do, because my perseverance or pain threshold in fact allows me to uh, go over these sort of periods when for you it's actually very very painful. And I mean, this is like seeing 30% of your gains going or of that position or whatever, for actually more depending on how you see it, but sort of depend on the sort of point of view. But yes, that can be in fact even sort of perceived as a higher percentage, and basically 50% on your money or 100% of your investment. It's, I would say like 80% of your ROI just went kaputski. To each their own, depending when they've entered, of course, and how their average looks like. But to me, this is not a big story other than an opportunity to rebalance and have an even better average. So when we do go through the next rally, which is, if you ask me, again, it's literally around the corner, as we will initiate that, I'll simply gain my lost gains from before, if you will, far more rapidly. And it doesn't really change anything because I was part of the intention to get more triple Qs anyways, regardless of the price. In this instance, I simply get to do that at a low price, and so gain back, once achieving the previous high, far more than I have the previous time around. So all in all, pretty beneficial. Nah, I'm sorry, but yeah, Yohanan, it's still this. Like, expect this to get closed. So, I mean, I wouldn't party yet. I wouldn't party yet. To each their own. To me, this is a non-story. It's basically meaningless in the grand scheme of things. The way I perceive this is simply, I mean, I know we look, even when we end up testing these levels, as you can see, we end up testing them on and on and on again, right? So it's not something I cannot perceive the market do. Do I expect the market to drop to the 2013's levels? No, it's not something I expect. Which, by the way, again, even if that happens, I'm still not jumping out, just to be clear. Oh, by the way, that is post-split, so you have to understand that as well. But what will happen here is I'll buy so much more that by the time it just starts to recover, I mean, at that price, it's not even at 12 cents, I'll be basically loading the boat. I'll be owning, tens of thousands of shares of this thing. It's going to be that simple. But you get the idea. That's not the lows we're expecting to see. If anything, we're expecting to see what we are seeing currently to be the actual lows. Of course, although a retest here on these on the gap, but overall, very shortly we're gonna start to see a quick recovery into previously seen levels. Just give it a little bit more time. Of course, you do you. I'm not worried. As I said, if this thing will take a year, it will take a year. I don't mind. If you cannot, if you need the hand holding, you might be in the wrong stock. I'm not saying that to you. I'm saying in general, right? Plurally speaking, since I do know you don't need hand holding. Again, my job is not to be a hand holder. My job, or a kindergartner. My job is to, look at the technical analysis of the market and give you my point of view of how I perceive these things. That's what we're seeing with Plug. Tesla haven't really reached the highs I gave it. I said it can retest 300 and it really was not able to complete that, or even 333. Remember how I was far more generous with them, or pretty much with any stock for that matter. Again, retest of 110, 100. I've mentioned these. Actually, I think we have 108 exactly, if I'm not mistaken, right there. And so I've mentioned these things will be retested and retested again. In fact, let's see. I think should I have it on this chart? It is it's 118 and 110. So my bad, yeah. But you can see basically gradually we're retesting those previously known levels we spoke about on the movement on the left side. Now we're simply sliding downwards on the right side of things, creating that neckline, head and shoulders, depending on the scale, but overall moving downwards. In fact, as you can see, again, all of that was predicted. In fact, I predicted something more tame than this, so you're actually getting the overreaction, the more said kind of scenario, but yeah, there's more down for you in the system, basically, so get prepared. It's going to be even more painful. That's my point of view. I may be wrong. Like I said, that's just my personal point of view. All right, boys and girls, this is it. We're not gonna do stocks. We're gonna start again our sort of arrangement now, and lives are gonna look a little bit different. Now we do the stock analysis in the community, a little bit more emphasis on the Patreon. Everybody's highly recommended to join the Patreon if you don't want to miss out and really want to be in the know and not to be questioning yourself while things are happening in the market and asking yourself what should I do now, and being under the stress and pressure. What we do in my community, in my academy, again in my one-on-one academy, which by the way I have 2 spots for. Unrelated, you cannot sign up to the One-on-One Academy on Patreon. The only way to sign up to the One-on-One Academy is to speak to me directly on Discord. You either open up a support ticket right here. You open a ticket and you say, Greg, hi, I want to have a Q&A about your academy. I was meant to have today just only the 1 spot available, but a client having a very tight schedule or something was not able to come through about things, and so basically it appears that still there are these 2 available spots. Yeah, I'm not showing it, pardon me, again I'm doing the stupid. Let me show you. Right, that's the way to speak to me via Discord. You can get to this stage on Discord without being a Patreon member. Here it is. Nanny just gave you a link in the chat. You open up a support ticket here, right? You get a ticket and you just write hi in the ticket. You write, hi Greg, let's talk about your one-on-one academy. I want to have a call. Do not open a support ticket if you're not ready to have an actual voice call. I'm not 15 or I'm not a 15-year-old girl. We're not gonna have this SMS sort of chat. No. We're gonna have a proper call, and on which you're gonna be able to ask me anything and everything. And if we can find a proper match. If we can find a proper match within each other, of course, I direct you how to make the payment, and then you can, we're gonna have your schedule. You're gonna join on your schedule into the one-on-one channel where the lessons and or sessions the classes are conducted, if you will. Of course, we're gonna have. By the way, dear community members, you all are going to get a members exclusive today. Those who don't understand what I'm talking about, we have these all sorts of really cool videos being posted for the members, some of whom are ad-free, members exclusive content that's just for them, basically. We also have meetings, community member meetings that basically, again, just exclusive for the Patreons and the community members, which we're going to have 2 of this week. In fact, I cannot promise, but I'm going to try and, give you some extras, making it back for you for last week that I've missed because of my PC issues. Of course, the main chat, market talk that we're now just starting, sort of this new channel where we're going to talk about the charts and stuff. You have the options. We have also another channel for the tickers, for the charts. Testimonials, by the way, super important. These are Academy members, some of whom, as you know, are already, part of, at this stage, part of the staff. In fact, they've been with us for that long. Of course, not all of them. A lot of them are people who are just, members in the community, long-time members, some of whom are actually here in the chat, that were students in the One-on-One Academy, graduated, now understand how the market works, can analyze on their own. Of course, still come and join us and learn more and more and more. That's part of being the community. No one expects you. When you go through the classes, a lot of people think, oh, now I'm going to go through the One-on-One Academy and I'm going to become a pro overnight. That's not how it works. You're going to learn about all the stuff that there is to know. Of course, an entire section for the academy that is now being sort of given some love and attention. It's going to be growing and added more stuff. For all the members, we have everyone can see my positions. All my holdings and how many and price ranges and everything and every change that I make. And yes, if I'm going to sell positions, boys and girls, don't worry. I will be informing on that channel, of course, as well. And just pretty much any and every channel on the Discord. We'll see just the whole thing light up like a Christmas tree. Charting 101, just various strategies, technicals, tools. There's, of course, the more in-depth, the more advanced stuff is what you get in the academy, right? This is basic 101, just kind of, foundational, more than basic approach. Here you get the advanced tools and the actual one-on-one lessons. Must watch our various videos that I post for my community to watch and learn from. So I know this was quite an in-depth explanation. I'm probably gonna get beaten up over the head for this prolonged explanation. Hi Neil, hello. Could you help cover Palantir too? Sure, we can do Palantir right before we shift off. Palantir is kind of our normal, one of our usual suspects. So I'm gonna definitely, why not? I'll be glad to cover Palantir for you. It's just that Palantir is not any different, and I think a lot of people misunderstanding what's going on and are buying into the FOMO like crazy. And I get it. This is very confusing. And I said, look, when the market will be dropping, right, which kind of what we're seeing, the market in essence is dropping, which Palantir sort of started with. Now the market is rebalancing, but we're seeing a very sort of exuberant over, almost very frothy, extraordinary, I would say even excessive effect with regards to Palantir. This is sort of correlates directly to what I said. I said Palantir will be dropping, it's as if with a parachute. I'm not saying if currently the price action is what it is, I'm not going to say, oh, that's the channel. No, it actually can be even completely flat, and we may end up with a double peak here, which means some of the people who sort of exited early, bummer, right? It is what it is. That's why we say don't be, sort of so emotional and impulsive. On the other hand, actually, it's a lot smarter if you ask me to exit on that downwards wedge, because that's the predictable, and that is just, that's actually a bull trap if you ask me. But more so, you should not rely on things that are not reliable, and thus you shouldn't play them. My pleasure, Neil. My pleasure. It is one of our usual suspects. Again, the Tesla, Nvidia sort of group, Palantir and such. I personally really like Palantir. I think they're inevitable and a tremendous inevitable part of our future, but horribly overpriced at this stage of things, with all due respect, and has a deeper correction within the framework, within the cards. It is very unlikely this sort of behavior. Shouldn't have relied upon it. If anybody told you, oh, this is going to happen, and coincidentally that sort of did end up being what has happened, they were just lucky. This is as predictable as lightning hitting the same spot 17 times, right? That's just so unlikely. And again, in the sad reality that most people right now buying into the FOMO, most people perceive this right now, to the moon, everything is fine, and in fact are bragging instead of realizing what it is, that it's basically an opportunity to get out before you get slaughtered. In reality, those people who were, the very same people who were begging for the market to give them an opportunity to exit at a normal price here at 70, now are boasting, look at how smart we are. No, guys, you're not smart, you're just extremely lucky. Beyond imaginable, sort of levels, if you will. And again, I'm not saying anyone they should be selling or not. Again, nothing here is financial advice. The market can be rational and can go, upwards, if you will. Very unlikely, though. Again, very unlikely. Palantir still does fall into the framework of the rest of the market. More so if you objectively analyze Palantir within itself, I will tell you that it's basically right about to start dropping. It is what you are seeing is the first step that you take over the cliff's edge before gravity haven't fully caught up with you yet, just like one first step, but gravity is about to catch up with you guys very quickly, surprisingly quickly. And again, remember how the market gains in droplets very slowly, loses in buckets, right? Goes up the stairs, goes down by the elevator. So very rapidly, basically. So be extremely careful. Again, you do you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'll just tell you that on the 4 hourly, this is not looking too healthy for you. Likewise on the daily, right? Again, that convergence divergence behavior is starting to happen, which implies that you're about to see more of that bearish behavior, even if temporarily so. And if the market will continue dragging the rest of the market downwards, this entire thing will, of course, roll over and will lead to a continuation of this very prolonged downwards pressure, which we haven't really seen anything like it on Palantir. Not even during the pandemic. No, even during here, what we saw would feel like I mean, you see, the reason this will feel less worse because we haven't had such relative highs in comparison to these relative highs, these relative lows to these relative highs were not that painful. The relative lows we're gonna get comparison to the relative highs we're having right now is gonna feel horrible. Horrible. Remember, we feel the pain far worse for every percent, right? For every equal percent on both sides of things, profit or loss, it feels twice as bad on the loss side. Remember that. Our psychology is extremely fragile. The human psychology is just so fragile. And again, for the very same relative amount, again, the level of happiness is phenomenal, and we can get like ecstatic and whatnot. But the reality is that when it comes to the level of pain we feel for that very same amount is literally twice as worse. So in reality, it takes only half of the amount of the amount of loss can be only half of the amount of profit, and you're gonna have the actual equal feeling on both ends of things. So at half of that potential profit, that same equal sort of loss, you'll be just feeling so much worse. So be very, very, very careful. Again, not financial advice, just a random dude on the internet who coincidentally ended up happening to work in the industry for like the last 16 years so-ish. Plus, don't count anymore. But what would say is Palantir proper price according to what the company offers. I don't approach it. That would be Tom Nash's job, and he's phenomenal. Tom analyzes the company in a phenomenal way. What I analyze it from the angle of the technical analysis that sort of involves what Tom does, but has another layer on top of our emotional and sort of importance of levels in terms of trading. And oftentimes the price of the stock does not reflect the actual value or prospects of the company. In fact, far more often than not, that is the case. In fact, I would argue that basically without us, the market would be absolutely linear. Okay? Now, what else did I want to mention? What else was really super important? Of course, your monthly looks horrible. Your monthly implies that if I would have to determine how low we're going to go looking just based upon the monthly, we're going to see like $5. But that's just insane because I'm aware of other facets and factors to how the analysis of this asset properly looks like. I'm arguing for around 20, maybe 30 best case scenario, right? 30 is definitely a probability. The problem is what you're saying, well, 20 is so low. 20 is so low right now at the price we're at. If we do hit 30, your sentiment will be completely different, and 20 will look far more probable to you than 60. Okay? Just to be super precise about these sort of things. In fact, on the technical levels, there are certain facets that are pointing to that being the inevitable levels. And you guys don't realize that if we're saying these processes will take years, then guess what? And more so, something that people hate to talk about, and because it's a very strong telltale sign, on the stochastic RSI, and test me on this, any asset that starts on the upper side of things, not 100% of time, but in the vast majority of normally handled assets, when their stochastic RSI on a longer time frame starts on the upside, that also means that you are looking ahead at a very severe drop. remember, there is an average that is being made behind it. It's just that we don't have the data, or based upon the amount of average days that the amount of days we need to for it to create its own average, which it simply does not have yet, and now it just only starts creating that moving average. And so based upon it can give you the indication on the stochastic RSI, which in other words, lagging. It is lagging. So yeah, that is that. Yeah, and I would absolutely appreciate if you guys throw me a thumbs up, a like right there on the bottom, subscribe, make sure you have all notifications turned on so you'll never miss out when I'm going live and all that beautiful stuff. You'll be always informed. Definitely join the community, the Patreon. That way you'll be able to hang out with us at least almost on a daily basis, weekly meetings, whether one or two of them, and many more activities. Shoot the shit, if you will, just kind of in the background while the market is being boring sometimes as well. Of course, community exclusives, meaning you'll be far more prepared. For example, in the following 2 weeks, I've made a video in the beginning of the week for all the community members to know about how things are about to pan out, how I'm perceiving them. So the community were not just, prepared from a day-to-day basis. They were actually prepared a week in advance. And as I said before, again, I have 2 spots in the one-on-one academy. You can ask the students here. You go, join the community itself. Watch the testimonials channel and all that beautiful stuff, and basically understand the level of knowledge and what it is that I do in the one-on-one academy for my students, and how it really develops for them an actual skill set that allows them to be independent and not to be, reliant on these talking heads on the media that, in all honesty, are just lying to you all the time. It's freaking insane. And when you can analyze it on your own, you don't have to trust them, nor you have to even listen to them for other than to sort of see what kind of bullshit they're coming up with, and actually see the narrative that they're trying to hide, and read into the market based upon that as well. That's actually another interesting facet that we teach in the academy. Inevitably, it's we answer all the technical whys and all, but we also speak about the institutions and about the academia, how it teaches technical analysis and fails at it miserably, by the way. You can ask the students. But yeah, that's the reality. Anyway, boys and girls, I will see you in the community. This is all for today. Far longer than I wanted. I have plenty of sessions to get to. My students are probably going to kill me today. But yeah, I'll see you on the next one. I'll see you on the Discord. I'll see you in the community. Definitely sign up. Don't forget to ask about the one-on-one academy. Otherwise, you'll be missing out on spots. And I mean, the longer you wait, don't forget my schedule. I like it flexible, and so that means if somebody else takes up a time slot that is the only one that is available and good for you, well, bummer, now you have to wait, right? And again, I'm very, very picky about who I allow into my academy as well. Not just everyone gets in. All right, love you much. Join the community.